Elon Musk has just declared war on Disney. But not only Disney, a lot of other advertisers who are boycotting X, formerly known as Twitter, in an attempt to get him to fall in line with their censorship demands. So Elon was recently at a New York Times event where he was being interviewed on stage. And oddly enough, this interview happened almost immediately after Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, was on stage being interviewed. And Bob Iger was actually asked about no longer advertising on X, and he gave the kind of stock, weebly-wobbly answer of, oh, it doesn't fit in with our company's ideals, especially after what Elon tweeted about. But then Elon got up on stage and dropped a nuclear bomb on all the advertisers and the organizations aligning against him in order to try to blackmail him into suiting their agenda. And his response was, mwah, chef's kiss.
Go fuck yourself.
And this actually has far-reaching implications as to how the X platform is going to be used and monetized in the future. But more than that, there's going to be backlash against these huge companies that have come out against X and trying to shut down the world's only true free speech platform. And we're already seeing this play out by people en masse canceling their Disney Plus subscriptions to send a message to the Mouse House that they're not happy with their tactics. But this isn't the only thing happening in the world of entertainment, and we're going to be talking about it with our expert panel, including WDW Pro, who's admittedly slumming it with us today. But our expert panel of nerds is going to be unpacking all this stuff on today's Salty Saturday morning, so buckle up, nerds, because we got a lot to talk about.
So if you're ready, let's go for the million. If Bob Iger was in the room with you right now, what would you say to him? Eat a bag of dicks? Suck on my pee-pee? Disney Plus is gay? Go fuck yourself.
I'd like to use one of my lifelines and phone a friend.
Okay, who would you like to call?
I'd like to call Bob Iger.
All right. Our friends at AT&T will get Bob Iger on the line, and we'll see if he can help you.
Hello?
Hello, Bob.
Yes.
Hi, Regis Philbin here from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Hi.
We've got Elon Musk with us right now. He's won $500 million.
Wow.
And he's going for $1 million. And he needs your help to get there.
Okay.
So, he's going to come on the line, read a question, 4 possible answers. One of them is the right answer. Elon, you've got 30 seconds. Starts right now.
Hey, Bob.
Hi.
I don't really need your help. I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to win the $1 million. Go fuck yourself.
He's won $1 million.
And what I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil.
Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. Big shout out to Lofty Pixels for that wonderful Who Wants to Be a Millionaire sketch at the end there. Go check out his channel. Link is in the description. But until then, I am your host for today, Mr. Kadish. Get it right. And joining me, as always, is my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with Matt Vader 74, the foot fucking master himself.
Wow. What the what? What is wrong with you?
So many F-bombs already.
Man.
There was like so many F-bombs.
I feel like
I didn't even say nothing yet.
Jeez.
Matt didn't even see a point of holding back. He's like, we already threw F-bombs out there.
Exactly.
So.
Kadish is all. Let's just get the whole thing demonetized in the first 30 seconds today. That was brilliant, by the way. I really enjoyed that.
Whatever happens with your monetization, I have to say, I have been on many a streaming show, and that is the best intro I have ever seen.
That was pretty good.
Period. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Golf clap. You guys don't understand. He's going to be terrible to live with now.
Yeah, now every single stream is going to be longer and longer and longer until 30-minute stream the intros are in.
By next Saturday, his box is just going to be one giant head. It's going to fill it up.
Just a little bit.
The intro will be the whole stream, and then at the end we'll come in and say, bye, guys.
Yeah.
I asked before the stream, how much of this is you talking? He's like, oh, just a little bit. And
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you mean like more than half of it? Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So, yeah. That was awesome. That was good stuff.
Well,
Hi, guys.
Thank you for being here today, Matt. And he is here. He's queer. He's our representation for all things intersectional. The Latinx macho man himself, Brian from the Popcast. How you doing, buddy?
Macho man, like Randy Savage. Oh yeah.
I should say macho ma'am because you are gender fluid.
It's ma'am. I just watched Lady Ballers and had a great time. Good times. For all the other macho men out there.
I forgot that was out.
So you're the only one so far to give it a good review.
Yeah. I'm sorry I don't line up with all the other pink-haired shills out there. I bet.
No. I mean, even in our crew, like a lot of people are like,
I thought it was funny.
Well, at least Daily Wire's trying. They're giving it.
Yeah. I'm glad someone's doing something.
Yeah. Anyway, we now have the master of all things Godzilla, Odin from OMB Reviews. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm under attack, everybody. I made a comment about
this is more controversial than your take on pineapple pizza.
It seriously is. I didn't understand it until I started looking at my notifications and it was blowing up and I kept getting essentially the same response retweet every single time. Well, I can do both. Well, I can do both or this or that. And now it's like over 100,000 impressions and I'm like, of all the tweets that have ever, this is, I think, the most viral I've ever gone. And it's about the Monsterverse of all things. So Godzilla -1 is amazing. I got the poster for the IMAX fan event right there.
You didn't even say anything bad about the American Monsterverse. You were just like, the Japanese version is far superior.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
I just don't like subtitles.
Curse you.
And
lazy.
Yeah.
And we have the man who's on everyone else's live stream, so why not ours? Tom Connors Jr.
Actually, I backed off. You got me specially a little bit.
Ooh, fancy.
So like, yeah, I don't do as many streams as I used to.
Or should we
go
go
on my OnlyFans last night, Tom? That's not true.
Tom's the only person I know that can be on 3 different streams at the exact same time in 3 different time zones. I see it happen every weekend. It's crazy. So,
well, should we start calling you Tom Rickles?
Something.
Yes, that's the latest one I've been getting because I was just being mean to people.
Everyone deserves a little bit of meanness in their life.
Oh, you got a little fat in your midsection, huh? Oh, okay.
I just recently got married and realized this, so it's very much the same.
Did you guys know that Kate just got married, guys?
Jesus.
Oh, so his brain went smooth.
Yeah.
There was a wedding? What?
We're 5 weeks in and he's still talking about it.
You were getting the milk for free, you dumbass.
Well, I've been called worse.
No,
and finally joining us, slumming it.
She's a lovely lady. I've met her actually.
Yeah, she is. Slumming it with us today is WDW Pro. How you doing, buddy?
Well, with an intro like that, we're not slumming down here, guys. This is excellent. Keep it up.
Yes, well, we're going to be talking a lot about Disney today and Bob Iger, so I figured who better to join us on the expert panel of nerds than Doug
Wait a minute, this is
himself.
not a 2-hour Godzilla review? I've been fooled. Odin!
Oh, no, they say he's got to go.
No, that's happening on Tuesday. So.
Oh, okay. That's a great preview then. So you guys are going to do a Godzilla review come Tuesday here on the Salty Nerd.
Yep.
Yes, indeed. Our Tuesday live stream, which is actually going to be an hour early again for various logistical reasons. But we're going to be covering a lot of interesting stuff on Tuesday. And be sure to check out.
True to form, it's all in subtitles. So it's all auto-translated subtitles. It's going to be a really cool time.
Yep. And just so you guys know, there's a link in the chat right now to check out our previous live stream from last Tuesday. And we actually had a really interesting conversation about the oncoming content drought of 2024 and how there's going to be nothing to watch, no new TV shows or movies that are worth anything. Checking out, although they did drop a trailer this morning. I don't know if you guys saw this for the Fallout series on Amazon. And of course, it was a female leading lady and all that good stuff. So get ready for more wokeness.
I mean, if it's like visually the same as the game, then at least you have that to look forward to.
Well, one of the good things is that it's Jonathan Nolan who's show running it. So he's like the head writer. So
put a ticket in, make a name and gay.
If you like Westworld, if you liked what was that one with what's his name?
That wasn't Westworld.
Person of Interest. And you'll probably like the Fallout thing. Hopefully it's good.
Westworld season 1 or everything after?
It doesn't matter.
season
Even
one-
Westworld
Right.
season 1 wasn't Westworld. I don't even know
Well,
why they even called
I just
it
meant
that.
I liked season
But it was
1.
good. It was
Yeah,
Westworld.
season 1 was okay, but
I like season 1.
Westworld is a bunch of robots killing people. Okay, that's what Westworld is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why
I don't know
season
what
1 was
this
the best
was.
one. It was the setup to that. That was the only
Mhm.
interesting part of it.
Exactly.
You bring up wokeness and it's continual roach-like ability to stick around. I have to say that after having seen Godzilla, which I know you all are going to review on Tuesday, so I won't speak very much about it. This is not about the quality, but simply about the finances. If places outside the United States and outside the guilds here can produce art such as that for the budget that's being reported, which you guys said was 15 million, it just that amazes me. It looks like it's a $250 million budgeted movie. If that can be made and we can enjoy that, then the other countries of the world will eat our lunch until wokeness is dead. That's just there's no way around it.
15 million is really it was shocking.
I've heard it's more like 30, but even if it's
gotta
still,
be.
it's peanuts
Just
in
30,
comparison.
I think they used super scaling for the graphics, which probably would have helped.
Okay, Brian, when you make your Godzilla movie, do it the way you want to do it.
Did he just call the special effects graphics?
I would have done it in plaid.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, guys, I want to give a big shout out to everyone who's in the chat. We got Cocho Dragon, Anthony, Mark, Wendy Hunter, Veritas Eterna, Culture Casino, good to see a Culture, Super Sticker Extraordinaire, Gavin Blackburn himself. We've got Studio Lau. We've got who else here? Thrasher 613, Marks 47, One Punch Man Tolkien fan, Mark Santos, Shotgun Fringe, and a bunch of other people. Danny's mom.
I got corrected on Mark S47, by the way.
Okay, cool.
It's not
Mark
Mark's.
S47.
Mark S. Yes.
Mark S47. Okay. Rec Films Montana, Keely Chow, Mephisto's movie reviews.
I know that guy.
Yeah, we know him. We got who else in here? Regis Red, and a couple other people. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you all for being here today. And we've already got a couple of super chats that we're going to just shout out real quick. We have Mexican Iron Man for $9.99. Mikey, my thanks, admiration, and heartfelt thanks for the leadership, vision, and entertainment wisdom provided by Mr. Kadish. Hey, thank you, Mexican Iron Man. We appreciate
Grand Poobah Kadish.
As long-winded as he is.
Yes. And he is the only one who recognizes my genius, so I appreciate you, Mike. Very good. Then we have a brand new member. Eric Wunberg has become a member of the channel. Thank you, Eric. Always appreciate you guys. And hopefully we'll get some gifted memberships during this live stream. Then Fluffy Panda, more like Chica Man, ma'am. LOL.
It's ma'am.
Yeah. And as we all know, Fluffy Panda is one of Brian's biggest fans.
Yeah. Fluffy Panda.
Yeah.
Really likes me.
Yep. And Fluffy Panda again for $5. The real reason the Godzilla movie is so popular, during the end credits, Godzilla eats a pineapple pizza. Heart to Odin. Sorry, Brian. No pineapple burrito.
Yeah.
I knew I should have stuck around longer.
Here we go. It's going to be a good stream. Fluffy Panda's here.
Well,
pineapple burrito. That doesn't
Is that a
sound
wild
good.
owl?
That sounds really horrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, we also want to give a big shout out to our Saturday superstars, William Forbus, who's still undefeated at the top donation spot, followed closely by Scotty Dub, Bob Dorsey, and we also want to give a special shout out to the AstroNerdBoy, Joker's Voice, and Mexican Iron Man. They are our most consistent donators, so we really appreciate you guys. And our top gifters are still WG and Jillian N. Thank you guys so much for gifting those Salty Nerd Podcast channel memberships. Just to let you guys know, we do channel member content every week, so you get like a special episode just for members. And if you guys get gifted a gifted membership, please consider upgrading to a regular membership, because that way you can get all that good stuff. And of course, right on cue, we have Mr. Anderson gifting 5 Salty Nerd Podcast memberships right off the bat. Thank you so much, Mr. Anderson. That's very generous of you. Really appreciate that. And of course, our top contributor is still Scotty Dub, who has donated the most money to the live stream and supported the channel the most on this day. We also want to let you guys know to go join our Discord at saltynerddiscord.com and join our community. We have a lot of great conversations over there, and you get sneak previews of upcoming content. You actually get to interact because we're all 4 of the Salty Nerds are on the Discord, chitting and chatting and all that good stuff.
Mr. Anderson for 5 more.
Oh dang! So we
10.
already hit. We already
Yep.
hit our goal of 10 today. Mr. Anderson, thank you so much. I know everyone in the chat also appreciates it. And guys in the chat, don't forget to, if you like being a member, just sign up and become a regular member. And it really goes a long way towards supporting the show. But another thing you can do to support our show is watch all of our videos all the way through. So not all of them, but like, if you see one that interests you, check it out, watch it, because that really helps us with the YouTube algorithm, because it tells YouTube people actually want to watch our videos. So we really appreciate that. And also give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts so we can become officially accredited movie reviewers over at Rotten Tomatoes. All right, guys. So I have rambled on enough now that all the housekeeping
15
is out of the
minutes.
way. Yes. Let's talk a little bit about Furiosa, the new Mad Max prequel, who dropped their trailer very recently. And there's been a decidedly divided reaction with this trailer. So Matt Vader 74, you love Fury Road.
I did.
And
I loved it.
And ever since Fury Road came out, George Miller, the director and creator of Mad Max, has been saying he wants to do a Furiosa movie.
Sure.
A lot of people thought that was going to be with Charlize Theron, but it's actually going back in time. It's a prequel to show the events leading up to, Mad Max Fury Road. And what do you think of this trailer? Did it impress you at all?
I enjoyed the hell out of this trailer, to be perfectly honest with you. I really liked Fury Road, and I think if you're going to do a prequel, if we're not going to get Max, I mean, this is the obvious choice, right? I mean, listen, everybody knows what we all really want is a sequel with Mel Gibson as an old Max, just giving us a new story in that world, right? I don't really care what it is. I just want an old Mel Gibson Max, but Fury Road was an amazing movie. It's in my top 10 movies of all time list. And I'm okay with this. I really am. I think Anya Taylor-Joy, I think she looks great. I don't have a problem with her. I don't remember her ever going out and talking shit to fans. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think she ever has. She seems like a very well-liked, she's a good actress. She has a good resume. Hemsworth looks fantastic in this. I was a little confused because I thought Hemsworth was playing a younger version of Immortan Joe, but I guess I'm wrong unless they're playing some tricks with this. I'm looking forward to this story. I'm not going to be one of these guys that's going to go, oh, it's another female lead. It's like, whatever it is. Okay. So what? But, I treat this character as more as like a Ripley or something. It doesn't bother me that I have another tough female. I like this chick. I think it's going to be a fun story. And in the end, it's just going to be more fun for my eyeballs anyway. I look at these movies like a Godzilla movie or something. It's a popcorn flick. Give me explosions. Give me fire. Give me a guy playing heavy metal on the front of a big rig. Give me that kind of stuff. I'm all in. It's gonna be a fun movie. And if it sucks, I'm gonna tell you it sucks when I watch it. But right now, I'm in. I'm looking forward to it. So I thought the trailer was good.
Brian, a lot of the criticism that's been leveled at the trailer is that it looks too CGI. Fury Road had a lot of practical effects in it and stuff like that, but the director, George Miller, he is pushing 80, I believe, so he probably didn't want to go out into the desert and do a bunch of these things that he did for the previous movie. But as our resident special effects snob, what did you think of the visuals?
They did look very clinical. Like Fury Road, part of how good it was that the practical effects gave it like that almost dirty realism where you felt you were there. It was dusty and grimy, and it worked. This one, it looks almost like it's a TV show because it's so clinical. Like, okay, obviously a lot of this is on one of those giant projection walls or whatever. And the trailer, whatever it was called, the trailer itself is pretty good. I'm just tired of movies. I feel like, are we living like back in time? Like every single franchise is always going backwards, and like we're all going forwards.
Right.
We're moving in a forward linear way in time, and all these movies are just constantly going backwards. It's like no one wants to be the person who makes the next the next installment, because it could be bad. So they just keep going backwards and backwards and backwards, and that allows them to sort of cherry pick. Oh well, everyone likes Joe and everyone liked this and everyone like that. So let's just play, even though those characters are gone. And these things don't even work anymore. But we can go backwards in time, do a prequel, and do whatever we want. Plus, we can spend less money on the cast because we don't have to hire these expensive actresses and actors. So I'm excited to see it. But man, I hate prequels, dude. Prequels are almost always disappointing, and and I want to go forward in the storyline. And on that note, it does look very clinical. It looks very
clinical, really.
I don't know what the word is.
He said it like 5 times, but he's the special effects extraordinaire who doesn't even know what volume is. So remember that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You spent time doing special effects in the actual industry, Tom? Oh no!
I know what they're called.
Go fuck yourself.
I think the word you're looking for, Brian, is probably sterile.
Sterile.
Is that probably better?
It's like, where's the dust? Where's the grime? It looks so.
It doesn't feel like it's shot in real sun, even. Yeah,
it doesn't. Yeah, and even the light feels like it's not bright enough. But I'm still gonna watch it because I do like Fury Road. I like Mad Max.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to give a warning to Tom Connors that insulting Brian is considered a hate crime.
Yes,
just so you know.
Yes.
So be careful.
No. I hated him before I knew he was queer.
Wow.
Fluffy Panda's on several lists already.
So I don't think it counts. I think I'm grandfathered in.
Well, plus you're on my OnlyFans, so you're an ally. So
I'm your only fan.
That's true. That's true.
All right, WDW. What did you think of this this decidedly clinical trailer for a prequel to a movie that everyone universally loved, pretty much?
Well, as a proper clinician of these sorts of things, I would say that it deserves its own clinical trial when it is released. So I'm going to withhold judgment. I agree. It looks a little too pristine in its depiction of the real world. It needs that grit. But Godzilla has turned me around now. I am just projecting an aura of positivity after having finally seen a good movie. So I'm all aboard. Let's see what they can do with it before I rain poop upon it. I'm not going to be overly negative right now. I'll save that for Disney.
I mean, George Miller is not one of these directors who's crapped on everybody, right? He doesn't toe the Hollywood line at all, as far as I know. So
I'm excited. Listen, I'm excited. Let the good times roll. Listen,
yeah.
Here's the real deal. 2024 is going to be very short on the number of movies that come out. Mm-hmm. Now, I can come out here and be negative about every single one of them, and I can poo-poo them and critique them, and but the issue is that we're at really a critical time for the entire industry. Cinema owners are going to struggle dramatically, and it's not like they've had a drought of concerns, right? Many of these theaters should have been KO'd by the pandemic, and they survived.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're in this period where we're going to be coming out of the strike, and you're going to have one movie with a runway of 3 weeks, where there's no competition. And if that movie sucks, so be it for the cinema owners. And so they're going to have to find ways to stay afloat. So I'm more eager to find reasons for enjoyment out of these trailers than I am ready to jump all over them right now.
Sure.
Well, Odin, I wanted to ask you this. So there is a coming content drought in 2024. Like, there's not going to be a whole lot of new releases. This is going to be one of the big releases of 2024. And I think George Miller, in doing this movie, what he's attempting to do is he's trying to open up the Mad Max universe to be like a sandbox for other stories to take place in, so that it's not all about Mad Max, right? And this is like his first salvo in that, and it could lead to basically a Mad Max cinematic universe, turn it into like its own big franchise. What do you think of that strategy, and do you think that audiences are going to respond to it?
Well, I disagree with this assessment in this way, because I'm so mixed when it comes to these films, because let's be honest, Mad Max Fury Road was not a Mad Max movie. Like, it just was not. He was barely the lead character in the film, right?
Thank you.
In my opinion, that movie, and here's the reason I like Fury Road. I actually do as a film, but I don't like that it's called Mad Max because that's really should not even be a part of the name itself. That is actually Furiosa's movie. So she already has her own movie. So the fact that we're getting another Furiosa film, it's like, okay. So again, I do like it. I do like Fury Road. And I do also understand, though, people who are critical of it because it's not really a Mad Max movie. At the same time, with this trailer, I think that there's a lot of good stuff in there. I agree with some of the visual effects not looking quite right with how they're being presented. The only real issue I had with the trailer, to be honest, were all of the actual like text graphics, because everything focused on her, she, her. And like it was like, okay, I get it, right? Stop beating us over the head with this. And the only thing that I think kept me from having a lot of concern about the film was more so because of Anya Taylor-Joy being in it. And I really love her as an actress. I think she's incredibly talented. And that's the other positive of this, is that they did not hire that psychotic maniac Charlize Theron again. And like that to me is already a bonus point going towards it of, okay, I kind of want to support you just because she's not in it. Because she's absolutely insane. But I love Anya Taylor-Joy. I do like the look and feel. I do like Fury Road. But I do also come in with those reservations because of the issues that I do have with Mad Max Fury Road being not really a Mad Max movie. And as you said, a lot of us just really do want that last Mad Max movie because we really have not gotten it yet.
We haven't gotten it, right?
It's our King Conan, right? It's like give us our Mad Max movie.
It's interesting though. It's like, yeah, so you have Mad Max Fury Road and Furiosa Mad Max Saga, both movies where Mad Max is not really a part of the story. Like, okay,
getting He-Man vibes right now.
Well,
right?
Speaking of He-Man, let's throw this to Tom. Tom, do you think that the lack of competition is going to help this movie succeed?
Tom, I think he just called you He-Man.
Well, and I'm happy about that, but
I don't blame you.
I'm more Skeletor. No. First of all, I'm not so sure next year's not going to have a bunch of movies. What it won't have is a bunch of movies that cost $200 million because they don't have a year to get them done. What we will have is things like Spinal Tap 2 and a lot more maybe grounded films, because that goes under we're getting Spinal Tap 2 next year. It starts shooting in February and they hope to have it out by the end of the year because it's the anniversary. Wow. So like I have a feeling we'll get a lot of smaller films next year. So I don't know if there necessarily won't be any competition. It'll just be interesting to see what kind of competition. As far as like a Mad Max cinematic universe, nobody asked for this. I may be the only one on the panel who fucking hated Furiosa Road. Like I hated it walking out of it. I'm like, this is not a Mad Max movie. It didn't give me one damn good reason why Mel Gibson was recast other than they fucking hate him. Okay? Because looking at him, even what was it, 2-3 years ago, he did Fat Man. He kicked ass in that. Like you guys just said, all we want is Mad Max coming out and doing his thing. And that's what the Mad Max movies were to this point. It was Max plopped into a brand new location in his new post-apocalyptic world. That was each one of the films. But until you get to Fury Road, when all Fury Road is literally backseating Mad Max through the entire fucking film for a woman who is the answer to everything, where they drive in a straight fucking line for most of the movie and turn around. It's a ripoff of Road Warrior. It was a visual feast, yes, but there's a lot more CG than people like to admit in that movie, too, if you watch the behind the scenes. Sure, they did film it out in the desert, but it's so covered in CG. This, to me, looks even more worse than that. I had zero interest in this when I see it. I wanted to throw up when I saw it. I'm like, why the fuck is Mad Max's name on this? I wouldn't care if this was some straight to streaming prequel series that wasn't trying to bilk off of Mad Max, but it is. Right? And that's my problem with it. Quit trying to give me shit that doesn't have the hero in it. I'm sick of Batman shows without Batman. I'm sick of Superman shows without Superman. I don't need a fucking Mad Max movie without Mad Max. When does it end? Right? When does it fucking end? I am so sick of it. Done with this crap.
You were asked to come on this show for the hot takes. You understand that, right? You need to elevate.
Note to self, don't have Tom on when we review Furiosa. Okay.
I thought.
Oh, I love the first 3 Mad Max movies. I adored them. I walked out of Mad Max Fury Road going, what the fuck is wrong? At that point, I didn't know how to put words to the problems of the movie. It wasn't until after Ghostbusters and I started, talking to you guys that I started realizing what the problem was. And then looking back on it, and people forget that movie lost money at the box office too. The only reason people still talk about it is because it got a few Oscar nominations and sold some videos. That's the only reason. And it had a few decent stunts in it. It's nothing special. In fact, Road Warrior kicks its ass. And then on top of it all, people ignore that in the first 5 minutes of the movie, they basically kick the shit out of Mad Max, destroy his car, and he's just sitting there for the rest of the movie doing nothing. Nothing. The only thing we got out of that movie was the fucking meme. That's bait. That's all we got out of that movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that's a great meme, though, dude. I use it all the time.
I'm coming to the realization that the greatest live stream on the planet would be to have Tom believe he's about to sit down and do a live reaction to a Batman animated show and then play Harley Quinn instead.
And his co-host is an AI version of Tom. That'd be great. Just two Toms yelling at each other. Hey, is Mad Max Fury Road not a prequel?
I don't know.
No.
Yeah,
no, it's before Thunderdome. Right?
Yeah.
It takes place before Thunderdome.
Yeah.
Yeah, does it? Yeah.
But it's not a Mad Max movie. I think that is something that I think most people can at least agree with.
Hey, man, it has Mad Max giving her his nod of approval when he walks off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, and I agree with Odin. George had started this thing off as like set in the Mad Max universe, but not necessarily a Mad Max thing, just a spin-off of. I don't think anybody would have a problem whatsoever. I don't think there'd even be the divisiveness about it. I mean, as far as Anya Taylor-Joy goes, I think she's a fine actress. Nothing against her personally. She don't look a damn thing like Charlize Theron, though, like in that respect.
No.
What did you look like 30 years ago, Tom? Did you look like you do?
I look just like Charlize Theron 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, guys, real quick, want to give a big shout out to Salty Superstar Bob Dorsey, who gifted 5 Salty Nerd Podcast memberships, brings our total up to 15 for the show. Thank you guys so much. That is fantastic. And speaking of memberships, we have a members chat from 52 movies a year, a member for 6 months, man. Thank you so much. Spoiler alert, she's going to lose an arm. Yes.
Yeah, but she lost it in the trailer.
Yeah, they show with the mechanical arm.
You can't spoil movies, man.
Yeah.
Well, the movie's supposed to take place over a bunch of different time periods. Yeah, and you're also kind of I agree with Brian on the prequel side of things. Like, I am not a fan of prequels. There's never been a prequel that I can think of offhand that ever really added anything to the mix.
Just his origin stories, man. That's all it is.
Well, for me, the only one was Rogue One. Was the only one. No, and maybe it's because I was harassed and abused by other Star Wars movies.
You know what I really hate are those episodes 1, 2, and 3 prequel movies. Those were fucking terrible.
I'm going to say that Tom has forgotten about Temple of Doom.
Yeah, that was
Does that really count as a prequel though? Even though it takes place beforehand, it has no real tangential connection to anything else.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a prequel.
All you people out there, all you people out there is like thinking Revenge of the Sith is the greatest thing ever made. You're all crazy.
Yeah, you're nuts.
Let the great debate begin. Is Temple of Doom a prequel or not?
It's a prequel.
It is, but it isn't.
But the movies aren't really connected aside from the characters.
It doesn't have the prequel tropes.
Exactly.
Right.
And let's be real, the Star Wars prequel is what made us all knee-jerk reactionary to prequels, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's true. That's true.
Anyway, guys, Dennis Wright for $9.99. I heard Godzilla -1 was made for $15 million. Where does the money go for Hollywood blockbusters? That's a lot.
We were talking about this.
Actors' pockets.
If it was hookers and blow, we'd actually get good movies. No, where it's going right now is in a bunch of executive producers' pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the actors are taking a big chunk, but I'm willing to bet, because I'm sitting here looking at this, and we had this very conversation. I'm going, where is all this money going? We kind of know how much the effects cost. We kind of know how much they're spending on the actors. We actually kind of have an idea of what a production costs. Well, where's the money going then? It's going into those 10 executive producers that are listed in every friggin' movie now. That's the problem. You've got 20 million producers. What made Godzilla different is you had a director and a writer who's the same person who had a clear vision, and he went out there and he put it, on film. I doubt he had a bunch of changes like Marvel does. That's another thing. And that's Bob, and this is going to lead in probably the next topic, talking about not enough executives to help with Marvels. I'm like, no. Are you seriously sitting here blaming the creatives now for the problems on the Marvels when it's you guys that have been creating the problem the whole time? Yes, I know. Yeah. We'll get around to that though.
Yeah. We're talking about that.
I'll say this: Godzilla -1 is a masterpiece. And that budget right there, I think, says that if other markets want to get in with these kinds of budgets, and if they can produce something anywhere approximating Godzilla, then I want to go watch that, and I'm done with Hollywood.
All right, guys. Fluffy Panda for $5. I can understand Tom's rage. It'd be like having Brian in every YouTube video you watched for a decade.
Here we go. Here we go. All right. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. He was just priming the pump. Okay, Panda.
Yeah, I understand Tom's rage better now. So thank you for that, Fluffy Panda.
Yeah.
All right, guys, and finally, and this is a perfect segue for our next segment. Lover of Green for $10. Iger tried blaming the failure of the Marvels on the COOF outside of out-of-touch journalists. The COOF has been irrelevant for 90% of normal people. I'm surprised Iger didn't blame it on climate change.
Oh, he also blamed the strike. He just forgot to mention that it was the audience that was on strike.
And that brings us to our next segment, which is Iger claims that the Marvels suffered from a lack of supervision. And if we take
I know how to segue, don't I?
Yes, you do. If you take a look at this Variety article, this is where Bob Iger got quoted, and he basically says that not enough attention was paid to this production by the executives, and therefore the quality suffered. And they're also going to be pulling back on sequels and saying that the only time they're going to make a sequel going forward is if it really warrants a story being told.
Matt, wasn't it last week that Bob Iger announced Frozen 3 and 4?
Yes, indeed.
Just checking.
Yeah, but and he announced the fourth one before the third one even has a finished idea.
Just making sure we got that.
Yeah, no. But to the point of Lover of Green, basically Bob Iger says that the Marvels was shot during COVID. There wasn't as much supervision on set where we have executives that are really looking over what's being done day after day. And so basically he blamed the COOF for, lack of studio oversight. And that's what made the Marvels a shitty movie. It didn't have anything to do with the fact that nobody cares about the characters or anything like that. It's strictly the fault of COVID for not allowing the studio to oversee it more properly. Now, Odin, is your bullshit alarm going off?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, having had to suffer through that garbage fest of a film, I could tell you for a fact, because especially of all the people that are actually still listed on that movie, yeah, more executives probably ended up making it worse. And if you had added any more, it would have become even more unwatchable, right? And this is something too where let's just go ahead and be honest, because when it comes to anything that Disney has been really doing, especially the last 10 years, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Marvel, the biggest issues that they've been having have tended to be too many cooks in the kitchen, right? And this has led to a lot of problems behind the scenes. That's why Star Wars, almost every single one of them had some behind the scenes drama, usually with its director, usually with some disagreement over, the creative direction or whatever it might be, to the point where films were, people were canceled halfway or more than halfway through filming and all these other things. And so to say, the hubris of him, right, sheer effing hubris from Iger to say that, well, we didn't have enough oversight on it is laughable and is just ridiculous. This is a guy who does not want to take any responsibility for himself. The closest he ever gets is by saying we. That's the closest he ever got to taking any responsibility, was by using the royal we of like, oh, so who are you referring to by taking on blame there? Because it's probably not yourself.
Do you guys know when the Marvels wrapped up its principal photography, its main line of production? Do you know
Which time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll bring that up in just a moment. But it ended last year in May. I'm sorry, but I don't think that the pandemic was a huge factor last year in May in terms of production and whether or not you could have executives anywhere near it. Then, and we know this from some sources, and Tom, you may have to help me out. I don't remember if these sources are public or well-known. Sometimes it all gets jumbled up, but we know that essentially the way this played out was that when they got to the point of putting all this together, they realized this is awful. This is terrible. We can't run with this. And so they also knew that the strikes were about to come into play. And so they rushed and got the three principal women back in front of the camera. And they did a whole bunch of recontextualizations of what they wanted to do with the CGI, because they had to fix the movie. And so the reason that the Marvels has so much exposition in it, with the three women all throughout the movie being on her spaceship talking over and over and over at length, is because that was the best they could do to try to beat the strikes and to get a movie that was at least coherent. And then they thought they would scrapbook the whole thing together at the end using CGI to make it make sense. And guess what? It doesn't. But it has the idea. And Bob Iger I think he spins a wheel. You know, it's like The Price is Right, and you get up there and you spin the wheel. Whatever it lands on is the excuse, but there's not a single slot that says Bob Iger.
Yeah, I think all of them are doing it because to one piece of defense, but it's also a kind of a criticism of what Iger said about blaming the pandemic. I will say, I think that the pandemic actually can be blamed. The issue, though, is that it is self-inflicted damage, right? Because who are the ones that still have mask mandates on set? Who are the ones that still have all of these restrictions? It's the Hollywood unions. It's these people. So yeah, you could argue, right, that the pandemic is having an impact, but it's something where you are choosing to take those things on. And if any delays happen from it, that's completely on you, right? So I think it's almost as if they've done that to try to have that as an excuse they can keep going back to, right? Of like, oh, it's the pandemic, it's the pandemic. It's like, well, realistically, that has not been actually impactful in any way in several years. And so what are you doing to yourselves?
Wouldn't it have been funny, Odin, if when they asked this question of Bob, he had taken a pause and said, well, I'm starting to think that Captain Marvel character is not very popular.
You'd think they'd be able to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
I know he could never say it, but boy, would that be funny.
Mm-hmm.
I want to throw this to Tom. So, Tom, there's a quote here I want to read you and get your reaction to it. Basically, Bob Iger says, I'm not sure another studio will ever achieve some of the numbers that we achieved. I mean, we got to the point where if a film didn't do $1 billion in global box office, we were disappointed. That's an unbelievably high standard, and I think we have to get more realistic. I don't want to apologize for making sequels. Some of them have done extraordinarily well, and they've been good films too. I think there has to be a reason to make them. You have to have a good story, and often the story doesn't hold up to, it's not as strong as the original story. That can be a problem. And Iger's been very vocal about pulling back to focus on quality, not quantity. And he wants to do less sequels and more like original movies, I guess. But technically, like all the movies coming out for the big franchises like Star Wars and stuff like that, they're all technically sequels. Yeah. So what do you think of this strategy of Iger?
Tom, as you read that, I've got a letter here. Toy Story 5 is now in development. Congratulations. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, like kind of Pro's been joking. I mean, he just came out, what was it, two earnings calls ago, and he just announced a butt ton of freaking sequels and nothing
but
problem,
sequels. Remember? That was what that was the problem they had. Not enough sequels.
Yeah, and I mean, really, every Marvel movie that comes out now is a sequel. Right? They don't even do original Marvel films anymore, and they kind of painted themselves in a corner on this. And I mean, really, it is, as we've been just kind of saying here, Bob's passing the buck around. The thing to me that I thought was hilarious was the admission of the thing that they had been denying, and a lot of our critics had been denying for so long, and that is that these movies cost so much money, they have to make $1 billion to break even. As much as Odin and I may go back and forth on some of our math, it really boils down to, at this point, when you're spending $200 to $300 million on a movie, and you have to triple that budget basically when it comes down to, especially now that they don't get to negotiate the opening weekends like they used to with the theaters, because after the pandemic, they thought they were going to close the theaters down. Instead, the theaters came out stronger than they ever were, and they have all the power now. And they're not getting the 60, 70% opening weekends anymore like they used to of the box office. They're lucky if they get pretty much 50% across the board most of the time. And as we know, the longer a movie stays in theaters, the less money the box office that the studios get to keep. And you also have to go into all the foreign markets and how much they actually get to keep there. So him basically admitting that is what a lot of us have been saying for this amount of time, for a long time. And that is, if you can't make $1 billion on these things, then you're doing something wrong, because you can't sustain this kind of business, right? You need to start making movies where if you make $200-300 million, that's enough. And that's where Godzilla is going to shine, where it's already profited. It doesn't even have to make $100 million. You know what I mean? Like, as long as it just coasts somewhere around there, it'll be fine. Sound of Freedom, another great example, is one I kept talking about. That movie performed like a blockbuster, but yet it didn't cost anything to make. In fact, Disney took a loss on that movie when they sold it to Angel Studios. Angel Studios made a butt ton of money off it, and it'll basically fund God knows how many movies for the next few years for them, because they're not stupid. They got a movie out this weekend, The Shift, which is a great film. I suggest you check it out. I mean, and I don't think they spent all that much money on it, and that's the thing is we see these movies each and every day and we go, why are they spending this kind of money on Indiana Jones, $500 million? When did they ever expect that movie? It's been 20 years since the last Indiana Jones movie. Like, what are you doing spending $500 million on that? It ain't Star Wars. And even Star Wars you've destroyed at this point. So I think you would be a little bit more leery about what you're spending this money on. And let's be frank, Indiana Jones, you could have made that movie for $50 million.
Let's put this into perspective for the moment being. And that is that let's split the middle on the Godzilla. Okay, so we've heard it's 15 million. Tom's heard it's more. Let's say that it's 20 million. Okay, for its budget. Wish, based on what Chris Gore and Alan Ing have heard from their sources, and by the way, they've been doing spectacular reporting, but they've heard that Wish actually had a budget of $250 million. So at minimum, Wish, which is a terrible movie with terrible animation, with terrible art, period. It is ugly and uninspired. Cost 12 times Godzilla, which is a masterpiece. So let that sink in when you're trying to figure out the efficiency of one Walt Disney company and whether this is sustainable with Hollywood.
I love how much Dubs turned into a monster movie fan. I love it. It's just
instantly.
Another metric to look at too is Godzilla, which has just come out, has already made 1.8 times its budget, whereas Wish, which has been out for going on 2 weeks, 0.3 times its reported budget.
Yeah.
Hey, I do want to report that I've been going through announced Disney movies, and I think I figured out how Disney is going to save itself. Apparently, later in 2024, the blockbuster Sister Act 3 is going to be coming out.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah,
that movie is going to make a ton of money, right? I mean, Whoopi's going to save Disney.
I thought that was going straight to Disney Plus. Is it actually coming to theaters?
I have no idea. I'm just being stupid. But yeah, come on.
I'm sure it's going to be starring Halle Berry.
It's going to be a prequel.
It's going to be prequel.
Sister Act 3 would make more money than Wish.
Or probably would.
It's going to be a passing of the torch, so that
Sister Act year one.
They can keep pumping those things out. But yeah, prequel wouldn't work considering how the first movie played out. So I don't know.
To Sister Act?
Yeah,
I remember it. So.
Oh, no. Oh. Yeah, the first movie's great. The second movie was a mistake. The third movie is going to be a joke. Let's be real.
Oh, I will defend the second one because
it has its moments. Yes, it does have it. Oh, I will give that. I like the setting, but it's just there's certain bits, and I'm just like, why the frig would she just pretend to be
I know.
again?
At 47 minutes in, Tom begins censoring his F-bombs. Well,
I try to be when I talk to Odin, if you notice, when I talk to Odin, I don't use the F-bomb as much.
Yeah, it's like talking to your priest. Yeah,
it is.
Especially when you're talking about a film that features a sister pretending to be a sister,
there's that too. I caught myself the other day when I'm talking about The Shift. I did so well for so long, and then I finally dropped an F-bomb about 2/3 of the way into our discussion, and I'm like, God, I was doing so good till then, because I had a feeling some of the people from Angel were probably listening. So I was like,
well, so I want to throw this to Brian real quick, because Brian, you're a bigger DC fan than a Marvel fan. Would you say that's correct?
That's facts.
And so you have this situation now where you have Warner Brothers, and they're getting ready to kind of reboot the entire DC slate, but then you have you have Disney, who's like, okay, we've got this huge Marvel universe, we just don't know what to do with it. What do you think of their strategy of pulling back on the content and trying to focus more on quality, especially when we hear rumors about how Fantastic Four is going to have people of color in it and a female Silver Surfer and all that stuff?
I mean, it's a great idea. It's always a good idea to pull back and focus on quality instead of quantity. I mean, that doesn't mean they're not going to make the same mistakes. The whole Silver Surfer being a women thing is just silly to me. It doesn't even it makes no sense. There's no reason to gender bend that hero or that character. The casting's a little bit off for Fantastic Four from what we heard. I don't know. Fantastic Four is looking like it might just be a Sue Storm featured or focused movie, which is completely the wrong way to do Fantastic Four. It's an ensemble. So regardless of how slow they do it, it still just might be slow bullshit. So You know, maybe it's quality this time, but maybe it's still the storytelling has to be really good. You know, the one thing about Godzilla is, subtitles aside, the story was very good and the graphics were very good. You know, it's not just, you know, we're going to take our time and give you really good graphics or CGI, as everyone's saying, but we're going to also, but the story is going to be bullshit. No, the story needs to be good and everything else needs to be good. It needs to be a combination.
I find it kind of funny that
The graphics were amazing.
They were.
The titles in the beginning were probably great, I'm sure.
I find it kind of funny that
That's
Disney
graphics.
says that they're going to be focusing on quality, but they're using the same people that have underperformed in that field.
Yeah,
going forward.
And we're going to take our time, which means they're going to make even more money for bullshit that they put out. I don't know. I don't trust a thing Marvel says now. They've taken one of the greatest, most lucrative franchises in my lifetime, and in a few short years, they've just removed all fan, expectations. Like, people just don't trust it anymore. And, you know, DC is on its way to do the same thing. We'll see what James Gunn can do with his first real movie. But, you know, if James Gunn doesn't come out the gate swinging, we're all gonna have the same exact feeling, you know, about DC as we do about MCU. So James Gunn got a lot of pressure. He's either gonna save it or finish it.
Imagine how it must feel to be Kevin Feige and to have been the most impressive executive in Hollywood for a decade. And then you adopt the Kathleen Kennedy strategy of feminizing your previously masculine-centric franchise, and within 4 years, you also now hold the title of the executive producer over the biggest financial flop in the history of cinema, which, by the way, you took away from Kathleen Kennedy, who had just earned it with Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny about 6 months prior. That is an impressive turnaround, and I think a cautionary tale for anyone who wants to try what Disney has been doing.
I wonder if Feige actually believes in the message that these like say Kathleen Kennedy believes in, or is
He
just
believes he needs the money that they'll give him if
trying
he
to keep his
does
job
have
as long
ESG
as
points.
possible.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's one of those cases where, like, if you're pounded over the head with enough nonsense and propaganda, that you eventually start to believe it, right? I mean,
let me toss something.
I think that's
guys.
most of the people in the industry.
I mean,
now,
I have my work, and I'm not in the entertainment industry. I work in surveillance at a casino, but every day I go to work, I have to walk by a big giant mural that has our diversity, equity, and inclusion statement on it. I read it every day. I have to,
and that
right
says
there.
Not you, Matt. That's what that
Right.
says. That says you're not in this.
And every day I go, I got to get a different job. I can't stand this. It's ridiculous.
So I think your
But-
experience is shared by the Disney execs, the white guys.
Yeah.
And
So I mean,
he walks
what
by
I've
his
heard-
diner that says "You suck."
Yeah.
I mean,
what I have heard, and you guys bounce with this, okay? I'll be very short. What I've heard is that the John Lasseter removal had a tremendous impact across Disney, because it said to all of the white old guys at Disney, if Lasseter can be taken out, and he is the wellspring of wealth at this company, we'll take you out, and we'll take you out in a second.
Mhm.
And so that's how we got to the Pandaverse. Matt, what do you think about that? Mr. Vader. Or Mr. Kadish. There's too many Matts here.
Matt.
I'm confused.
I spaced out. I didn't quite hear everything you were saying. I was looking for that picture.
We had some crosstalk, and I felt badly because I felt I had interrupted you, and I didn't want to,
No.
I was trying to get that finished quickly.
No, I think people are just getting beat over the head with this stuff, and I think some people it sinks in after a while, and that's what.
Well, there is something to be said about Disney's corporate culture. So I remember when I was in Hollywood, they actually had a manual that dictated how you could dress, like when you were on the lot. Things like, men weren't allowed to have earrings or, colored hair and stuff like that. So Disney has a long history of basically, kind of indoctrinating.
Now you must have colored hair.
Yeah. Has a long history of indoctrinating everyone who works for the company. So it doesn't surprise me that, if they wanted to make this shift, they would target very high profile white dudes and, basically railroad them and replace them. And then, kind of get the other white dudes who are still there to kind of fall in line. So it's pretty much Stasi tactics, if you want to call it that. Okay, real quick. We got Mark S47, a member for 3 months, member chat. Was it exec supervision or supervillain on set?
Yeah,
could be both. Exactly.
I mean, and that's just it. These guys, let's be clear with why they're even doing this stuff, Matt. Like Matt Vader, I mean, and this is why your company's doing the same thing and buying into this DEI crap.
Yeah.
And it's because if they don't, then they don't have access to all these banks and loans. And that's why the business is doing this. So that answers the question that everybody keeps asking is why do they keep doing this when they aren't making any money? Well, to be able to get the money in the first place is exactly that. They have to adhere to this crap. And yes, I've heard similar things. In fact, we had a situation go down at Midnight's Edge a couple of years back that had to do with Pixar, where we were trying to talk to some people because we had done a video and it had gotten it was a glowing video for Pixar, and some people in the company liked it, and some people wanted to talk to us, but some other people said no because of who we were. And it's like, and then I heard some stories about what happened with John Lasseter, and I think Pro, you had heard similar things, and basically Brave was kind of ground zero for that, in that there was some young women there who didn't like having a white old man as a boss. And they didn't like that this man who was a 30, 40-year veteran in the industry, who probably knew a hell of a lot more than they did, telling them that their movie sucked and it needed to be worked on. And
what did Chris Gore say was the first question at Pixar when the Disney exec came over and said, we've got to make an announcement, ladies and gentlemen, John Lasseter is no longer with the company? What was the first, immediately someone stood up? Tom, do you know that?
I remember the conversation, but I don't remember what he said.
A woman immediately stood up when it was announced that John Lasseter had been removed from the company, and she said, "How long until we can get a woman running this place?" That was without, that was the leap to the conclusion that they wanted.
All right, guys, real quick. I want to get through these super chats so we have time to get on to the next section. We have Ryan for 20 euros. Not enough supervision is code for I shouldn't have allowed the intersectional feminism, forced diversity, and idiot writing rooms allowed to interject their personal left-wing politics into scripts. That is the most accurate super chat we've had yet.
Well, and Kevin Feige was brought up here, and I want to say that this is kind of like what I'll call now, and I'll dub it, the J.J. Abrams effect. And what we're learning is a lot of these executives and quote-unquote creatives and producers are not as great as they say they are, and they're the only ones who are really making any money off these deals. See, that's what Hollywood learned about J.J. Abrams, and that's why all their deals dried up super fast, because they just kind of took a look at the situation. They're like, this guy's spending a truckload of money, he's pocketing a bunch of licensing fees and all types of other things, getting a cut of all the profits of the merchandising, but yet we're not seeing any profits from the movies to begin with, right? J.J. Abrams comes in and he's supposed to be this wonderkind. Well, it's the same thing here with Kevin Feige. We're starting to learn he really wasn't the creative force that we thought behind Marvel, and the same thing we learned about Kathleen Kennedy. She was not this great grand producer that we all thought she was on paper, right? It's the same thing with Bob Iger. He's not this great grand leader that we all thought he was for 10 years, right? So it's kind of just the way
JJ.
Things work, and we're learning.
He gave us so many lens flares and empty mystery boxes, and we still don't.
Wasn't one of the things during the whole strike that they were able to do? Weren't some of these studios able to get out from underneath some of these deals that they had given to a lot of these people for, like JJ and stuff? I forget the names of those things. Like, where they're development deals. We're going to give Abrams $80 million to basically sit there at his desk and write things down. The
short version of that is basically he had to deliver, right, to actually get paid. And they had to accept what he was delivering. So that's
there was
why
other ones too, right? It wasn't just him. There was, I feel like,
there was a few.
A lot of these. So I don't know.
Yeah, Greg Berlanti, Chandra Rhimes, but we all know whose fault this really is, and that is Donald Trump's fault. So
that's true.
It's
all Trump's.
I make the biggest mistakes, the best mistakes,
the biggest flops of all time. That I can tell you.
Yes.
Yeah. So we got a member chat from Neil for 6 months. Thank you, Neil. I rewatched Incredibles 1. It's amazing how well that movie holds up. Disney messed up losing Lasseter. Also, Syndrome is greater than Kang as a villain.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Well, Disney doesn't know how to do villains anymore.
We also have Penny, Danny's mom, a member for 8 months, and she says, "Thanks to all the gifters for keeping me a member." So she's been writing that free gift, that free membership way for 8 months. Good on you,
Nice.
Danny. That's how you do it. Rec Films Montana for $5. Who remembers that old cartoon Godzilla versus Bambi? Gets a new meaning now, doesn't it?
Oh, especially if this thing kicks the crap out of Wish this weekend, considering it's on what, half or a third of the theaters, Odin?
What's going to be Wish?
Because it's a 2,300 screens versus Wish's 3,900 screens, and it's already beating it by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very good. And we also have Christopher Mays, member for 3 months, member chat. More competition is the solution. Disney equals a monopoly. Very true. And David Nelson for $1.99. Thanks for the entertainment from the 199. Another 199. Diversity and inclusion. ENFDEI. And then finally, another 199. Enough DEI. Okay. Finally, enough, or I should say, another 199 from David Nelson. Thank you for representing the 199 here on the Salted Nerd Podcast. Diversity, inclusion, enforcement is DEI. This is all very, very true. All right, guys, go ahead.
I keep thinking about the stuff at work, the DEI stuff. It's like a cult. It's very strange because not only do I walk in, and I'm sorry this is off topic, but I walk in and I see that big mural and everything, but it's also, there's monitors on all the hallways. And on every one of the monitors, these big, 80-inch TVs, they're always celebrating somebody that's some kind of freak of nature. That's like
gays have like 3 months now.
Oh, it's not. It's just every week. They're just celebrating, something this month, something that month.
They got a month for each one of the letters.
Basically. In other news, mothers are getting too much time and fathers, so we're going to combine that together. You don't get Mother's Day and Father's Day. You get Mother's Morning and Father's Evening.
Right.
Well,
I'm just
all
thinking
the best
about
female athletes are men.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm just. It's going through my brain right now. How much of this propaganda I'm being exposed to, and I don't even really realize it. Just walking through the halls at work, it's crazy.
Yeah,
and I can explain
it. Really is.
And I can explain it real quickly. I don't want to steal the show anymore from Matt because I know he's got a schedule to keep. But basically, this is how it works out, guys. All this stuff started from, remember in the 90s when we kind of all figured it out? Well, what happens when your whole life is pushing this idea that you're a victim, whether you're black, whether you're LGBTQ, whether you're what have you, insert your victimhood here. And you're no longer a victim. You have to create problems to continue to still be a victim. And that's what we've seen for the last 10, 15 years is all these organizations who have now gotten everything that they have fought for the last 50 years, and they don't have anything else left to fight for. So they're just creating problems to fight for. That's what it is. That's where, just being white is a problem now. And that's the shortest version I can tell you, brother.
Well, the other thing, too, is that for all of human history, we have divided ourselves into tribes, and then that has created animosity between people groups. And the great accomplishment, I think, of the last century, in spite of all the wars, was that we reached a place and a time in the United States where at least the ideal had been accepted that we were going to see each other as brothers and sisters, period. And that didn't mean that we ignored our ethnicities, but that the primary source of respect for one another was the fact that we are of the utmost value, every single person. And that lasted through, let's say, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s.
Yep.
And then we had a turning point, and the forces that have been throughout all of human history that want us to be categorized into tribes based on how we were born, not who we are, they're back in charge again, and that's where we are.
Well, everything was going according to plan until Trump got elected.
Yeah, basically, because
but guys, I want to move on because we have another story that we're going to talk about that actually dovetails with the whole kind of Bob Iger thing, which is Elon Musk versus Disney. This was the big news that came out this week. In the sense that basically, so Bob Iger and a bunch of other executives like Apple and stuff like that got together and said, we're going to pull ads from X, formerly known as Twitter, also known as Twix. And basically they said that we don't like what Elon's doing. And Media Matters, which is this kind of watchdog organization for the left, has literally been making shit up about, you know, anti-Semitism and all types of stuff on X in order to give these companies a reason to pull their funding for it, even though I don't really think that there needs to be a reason for something like that. But they wanted to have justification so that they didn't look like it was a coordinated attack, which it was. And then Elon Musk, you know, it's kind of funny because he goes on this New York Times interview panel where basically he gets asked a question about, you know, this situation. And before that, Elon had put out a tweet that, you know, was kind of the basis for Disney pulling their funding and stuff like that. And he kind of apologized for it, even though like what he did or said wasn't inaccurate in any way, shape, or form. But at this point, Elon is so fed up with these guys that he basically says in a public forum on live TV, he's like, "Go fuck yourselves." He's like, "I don't care if you advertise on X. If X fails because of a lack of funds, everyone's going to know that you caused it. So fuck you. I don't need you. I'm going to find a way around you." And that was that. And it was the atomic bomb of dropping, you know, reality onto DEI and this coordinated effort to censor speech and all this other stuff. And Elon also made the point, it's like, I'm sick and tired of people pretending to be good while doing evil. And that was probably the biggest bomb drop. It wasn't the go fuck yourselves. It was these people are evil.
They're
he
evil.
Publicly called them out. And Bob Iger was on stage not long before Elon Musk
was in the audience at the moment.
And Elon called him out when he said it, right?
Hi,
and
Bob.
so and this thing has gone super viral. Everyone knows about this.
Yep.
And so now the question is, okay, what are the people who've been called out going to do about it? Because Elon also is doing a thermonuclear lawsuit against Media Matters and all these companies that or organizations that conspired to, you know, do this and try to financially cripple X in order to get him to fall in line by allowing censorship and all this other stuff.
Is it okay? Is it okay for me to explain very quickly how Media Matters allegedly did this?
Go for it.
Very quickly. They created accounts that followed only the absolute most vile accounts that had extremely low visibility. You would struggle to find them. Media Matters, being experts in this area, were able to find the worst of the worst of the worst. And then they only posted the worst of the worst of the worst. And then they refreshed the page after they had formulated something that, you know, the devil himself would not have created an account this bad on Twitter. Then they refreshed the page like 20,000 times until they managed to get a single ad to show next to an objectionable post. And then they ran a story as if that were the norm. It's akin to slamming a car into a brick wall and claiming that is the normal experience for car users.
Yeah.
Yeah, but doing it 500 times before the total happens, right?
So I want to throw this to you, Brian. This was a true moment of realization for a lot of people who might not have been aware of what was happening and stuff like that. But because Elon Musk is one of the most famous people on the planet, and he has so much influence, that this clip going viral really shines a light on the underhanded tactics that these major corporations who are in the pockets of BlackRock and all these other DEI things, what they're doing. Do you think that that we're going to see a shift coming, or is it are the bad guys going to double down?
I think the bad guys are going to double down. BlackRock, Vanguard own the majority of the companies on that boycott list. Why are they so gung-ho to rein in Twitter? Like, what is the big deal? It's because Twitter is right now, X, whatever. It's a place they can't control. It's the last place, the last most popular place on the internet where people can actually speak their minds for the most part. And we have an election coming up. And I'm not being a conspiracy theorist, but think about this. There's an election coming up.
I think we're past conspiracy theorists. You're fine. We've all lived through the last 3 years.
They need to rein in Elon Musk. They need to rein in. They need more control over Twitter. And now, and when Elon took over Twitter, X, and opened the floodgates and told everyone to F off when they tried to shirk any kind of control over the system, you know, their only shot was, well, you need advertising dollars. So let's go to our companies that we that BlackRock, Vanguard pretty much own, the majority of, and let's make sure that we threaten Twitter by not giving them the money they need to operate, because we're the largest advertisers. They expected Elon behind the scenes to be like, oh, okay, we'll throttle these problematic accounts, and we'll clean up the riffraff. But instead, he goes on stage and says, "Go fuck yourselves." And if you expect these corrupt assholes that have owned the world for the last 60 years, own the majority of the politicians, have killed people, in my opinion, have done everything possible to amass as much of a gap between the 99.9% and the 0.1%. You think they're gonna sit and just let this go? Of course not.
The control oligarchs.
Yeah, they're gonna double down. They're gonna triple down, and because to them this election is more important than anything, because they own the current people in control, and there's a chance that the next guy in control, the next guy that gets elected by the people, they won't own. The reason why they didn't like Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, was because you couldn't own him. Yep. They do not want that guy getting back in the office because they won't be able to own him. And they need to own them. They need to own Facebook. They need to own Google. They need to own YouTube. They need to own these companies. I love Rumble, but they're not big enough yet. Well, I'll sing their praises in 5 years when they have the numbers that YouTube has and they still haven't caved. They need to own these. They need to own these people so they can control the narrative, the message, like they own the politicians. So this election to them is insanely important. It's going to keep the wars going. It's going to keep their pockets lined. It's going to keep their power growing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I want to throw this to Matt Vader. Matt Vader, when you saw this clip, what was your reaction?
Oh, my reaction was just like a meme of like, oh my God, look what just happened. Those guys that are like, oh, that was basically my reaction. It's like, holy shit, he just dropped a nuclear bomb, and it was crazy. I'd never seen nothing like that. I mean, can you imagine Bob Iger going up on the stage in front of a bunch of people and saying, all these dorks that hate my movies, go fuck yourself. Right?
I'd respect him more.
I would too. Yeah. But, it was wild. It was like you said earlier. It was a nuclear bomb. It was definitely a peak in the culture war that we all have going on, and it was pretty crazy. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty crazy. I mean, here we are talking about it still 3-4 days later, 5 days later, and
the problem with Bob would have done that though, Matt, is it would have been no different than the same shit we've been hearing for the last 6 years, right? He would have just been coming out and calling us istophobes just like everybody else, and it would have been another day that ends in Y. Yeah.
They just use different words. Just the bluntness of it was shocking.
That would require honesty on his part.
It was wild. It was just like, I mean, Elon could have gone up there and said a bunch of long, big words that people like me would have went, huh? But instead, he got down to the core, the base brain level of 90% of people out there.
Trying to blackmail me with money?
Yeah.
With money?
It's like trying to...
Like, I don't need money. I'm the richest guy in the world.
Trying to bribe Roseanne Barr with dessert. She's already got plenty of it.
Right. It was
I think what set this up, though, was that I don't think Media Matters and the rest of the companies who immediately hopped on board with Media Matters, which makes one wonder, and so thus the lawsuit. But I don't think they knew that Musk and the team at Twitter were capable of pulling an activity log such as they did, where they had down into the granular level exactly how this was done immediately, and thus the lawsuit. And so then what you saw was they had to jump ship off of that narrative, because that could no longer be the reason that all the big companies had suddenly gone off board of Twitter. And so they jumped to the next thing, which was the Elon Musk's tweet, in which he had said, essentially, it's probably not wise to give money to groups who then give money to groups that want to destroy you.
Mm-hmm.
And they use that then as the anti-Jewish people thing. I'm not going to use the word because of your podcast. But that was what they used as the new narrative. But that's because the Media Matters narrative was taken from them, and there's now court action that might spill over to them.
Yeah, if you can't beat your enemy, then you need to discredit them.
You're right, because like, let's be clear, this whole thing was a witch hunt from the start.
Mhm.
This is no different than Gina Carano. They had people just watching like a hawk over her accounts, waiting for her to trip up and say anything that they could remotely try to make look bad. Same thing with Elon. They've been doing it for months. And look, do I like Elon all that much? I don't know. He's all right. But after that last thing he said, that's the thing that really stuck with me. It's like, this dude is, if he's being honest, if he is really being honest, he's basically the closest thing we got to Tony Stark, and he is our only fucking hope. Because if it's true, because this is going off of what we were talking about just before we got into this conversation, I was talking in the back here with Pro, and I say the same thing he does all the time, and he's right. Like in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we had things kind of pretty much figured out, and that's where we figured out this is not a race thing, it's a class thing. Right. And we figured that all out, and we started going against the man, and the man represented, you know, the upper 1%, the government, authority, that kind of a thing. So then authority, the government, the upper 1% got smart and go, well, you know what we need to do? We now need to change the man into white man and let them fight amongst themselves.
Yeah,
right. And that's kind of what we've been doing for the last 10 years now.
Right.
And
we can't have the impoverished Caucasians of West Virginia realizing they have more in common with the impoverished black people in coastal South Carolina. We can't let them figure out that they have a whole lot in common and they like each other.
And I think Elon knows that. And I think that's what makes him basically our Tony Stark and our only chance here, because if he's the only thing standing between us and them, we've seen what they're capable of and what they're willing to do. I mean, there's a quote going around on Twitter right now about Hillary where she said, you know, if I go down, I'm taking half of the government with me. That should scare us. What the hell does she know about our government? And she's bad enough.
Right. That is terrifying. I'm taking half the government?
Exactly.
I mean, where do you think Epstein's list is?
Well, they just blocked that again too. It's like,
and they lost a bunch of the video footage all of a sudden from the hearings. They just,
and I'm not trying to get political here, but
what do you mean you don't
let's
know
just
where it
talk
went?
about how ridiculous these people are, because you've got a president right now who won't even give Robert Kennedy fucking Secret Service clearance when his dad is the whole reason that thing exists.
By George, you have a rope pulley attached to a garage door at NASCAR, and the FBI will be on you like ducks on.
Yeah. So, guys, real quick.
I know it's just the hypocrisy of the whole bunch.
I saw a man giving us the signal that
we're going to get deeper into this, but I want to throw it to Odin first, because Odin, you know, one of the fallouts here is that users of X who saw this thing have been canceling their Disney Plus subscriptions.
A lot of people,
as a big signal to Bob Iger in particular, that they don't appreciate what he's trying to do here, and it's all based off of like Elon's whole "go fuck yourself" mantra. How do you think this is going to affect Disney's bottom line?
Oh, I mean, Disney's bottom line's already been bad enough. So it's like, if things couldn't get, you know, if you thought things couldn't get worse, you know, Disney Plus and Disney in general just went hold my beer, right? Because they're like, oh, let's just make things even worse, right? Because what we've seen from them is that the content they're offering on Disney Plus is just not really, you know, it's not really worth it for a lot of people. You then also have them raising their prices, right? You have all these things happening, and now this happening too, right? With the amazing response. And I honestly think that my favorite part of it, the mic drop to me, was when he was talking about all this, and then he went, "Hi, Bob," like just immediately, like by name, called him out.
And
it's
he
like,
knew Bob would see it right then. Yeah.
No, it's just like Bob is literally in the audience. He's just said, "Go F yourself" to these people pulling out. Hi, Bob. Like that to me, it's like, you know, you have this moment, you have the South Park moment. There are just so many things happening right now where Disney is just looking like complete garbage, and it's the garbage that we've known they've been for the past several years, especially. So it's nice that regular everyday people are now starting to kind of get on it too.
Bob should have stood up out of his chair from the audience and walked up on stage, and they got in a fight like WWE style.
Finally, the Zuckerberg Musk, but it's
Bob
Iger's dead.
That'd be funny.
I got to tell you guys this stat that this was astonishing to me. On ABC News later, they were talking about just how bad this was for Elon Musk. And the pundits on ABC, which of course everyone knows other ABC is owned by Disney. Thus, right, they already are in they're in bed with Iger because Iger put them in bed with him, or well, that's where he came from anyway. But so here's how bad they said it was. They said that Twitter X is standing to lose $70 to $80 million this year just by Musk's poor actions and behavior. And I sitting there knowing what I know, thought, no, wait a minute. You all are talking about how bad losing 70 to 80 million is, and that should doom Twitter, and Elon Musk is an idiot. And isn't your company the one that just lost more than $500 million in a single month at the box office by not understanding what the market wants or refusing to acquiesce to what the market wants? Oh, yeah. How about that? And so
how about that?
Just an example of how reality does not match with the corporate mainstream narrative that we are all supposed to take in without question.
Right.
Dubs, I wanted to ask you this. So when Elon came into Twitter, he basically cleaned.
You and me were supposed to have a debate about this at one point, and we never got around to it.
Well, he fired basically all the problematic people, all the ideologues, all the propagandists, all the hardcore leftists. He just got rid of them. And that was the only way that he could actually get that company back under control. Like, we have reports coming up that that there was an FBI guy there who was working at Twitter as he was also keeping his job in the FBI.
Yes.
And he was targeting specific accounts for censorship, especially when it came to the Hunter Biden laptop stuff. So you had these conflicting interests all over the place. And then Elon cleaned house, and now he's got full control over the company. And I feel like in order to right the ship with Disney or to right the ship with any of these DEI companies, you kind of need to do that with all of them, right? What do you think about the strategy that Elon has?
Well, before we get to the strategy, I also want to say that particularly why they dislike what he has done with Twitter beyond the removal of the ideological partisan capture that was there is that as long as Twitter exists, constituted such as it is currently, it is a force that disallows the other platforms from going into dystopian authoritarianism such as they wanted. So, for example, they would love for Rotten Tomatoes to be a place where you don't know what movie is good or bad, but it's just supportive of the corporations. They would love for Facebook to be a place where discourse means that you say what they want you to say, or you say unimportant things about what you're having for dinner that night, and nothing that actually would change the trajectory of government or society. That's what they want. As long as Twitter exists as it does, it's a place for people to go talk freely. And if the other places attempt to crack down on free discourse, then people will just flood over to Twitter instead. So it's preventing them from moving down the path they wanted, which was to essentially move the town hall, the town square, to the digital space, and then simultaneously say, this is not the town square, and therefore we can censor you here. Go shout into the vacuum on your local steps of the courthouse on a Saturday when nobody's listening. You have free speech, you pleb. Now, in terms of how you empty out the companies and what the strategy there can be, we already know what Disney has been doing and what they will be forced to do. When it comes to places like Lucasfilm, I don't know what the solution is except to start over. I mean, from the ground up, just completely start over. But what Disney has been doing as of late, we are told from sources, is that they have had to go out to third parties and contract out with freelancers and with third-party animation studios because their in-house quote unquote talent is so ideological now, so partisan now, so activist now, that if they ask them to do things that they disagree with, i.e., what happened with Strange World and Lightyear, if they say we're not going to put that in the movie, then their own animation studios revolt against them. That's how you get these budgets that are bloated, because they still have to pay for their in-house talent, but they're also paying to bring in people from the outside who will do as they're told because their own people won't any longer.
So I want to throw this to Tom real quick. Tom, do you think that Elon Musk calling out Bob Iger by name is actually going to have any effect at Disney?
Oh, yeah. I mean, will they still have cognitive dissonance about a lot of things? I'm sure. But I mean, last night alone, still, here it is, 2-3 days after this whole thing went down, and Bob Iger was still trending with almost 20,000 tweets. I mean, this is even bigger than the South Park thing. The South Park thing was a kick to the nuts. This is a kick to the nuts and both shins and a chop to the throat at the same time. I mean, this called Bob Iger out personally, because that's the one thing a lot of us said about the South Park thing is like, yeah, it's great they went after Kathleen Kennedy, but Bob sure did get off light on that one. You know, and I pointed out, yeah, they went after Disney quite hardcore over the last few years. But yeah, it's the first time Bob has kind of been put out there by somebody besides us, you know, or some other journalists who actually have had the balls to kind of call out Disney over the past few years. And I mean, when Disney is the company that, you know, for the last decade or better, almost all of Hollywood tends to follow whatever trend they're doing, whether it's through business or entertainment or otherwise. It's about time somebody called Bob out, because he is not the savior that everybody thinks he is. He is not Daddy Iger, as, you know, Campia tried to make him out to be. He is this failed weatherman who has now destroyed tons of companies. And we've been asked, you know, is Disney in the, you know, worst place they've ever been, or are they in as bad a place as they were in the 80s? And it's like, you know, you can't even compare it to that anymore because they were such a different company then. But at this point, Bob had every opportunity to make Disney the biggest entertainment company in the world. And it's like he went out of his way to destroy it. And we've gone over the many reasons and whys over the past, you know, however many years through various podcasts and conversations. But at this point, this is the first time somebody besides us who actually has, you know, the attention of the world. Because let's be real, like I just said, Elon Musk is basically like our Tony Stark, right? Like, I mean, everybody listens to him when he talks. And to just hear that ABC was trying to even, you know, show their biased hand for Bob and try to be, they'd have been better off just not even reporting on it.
It's like he just called Bob Iger a Red Skull. That's what he just did.
Basically.
Ultimately, they want him removed from SpaceX because SpaceX is the reason that Elon Musk is invincible to all of this. SpaceX is in charge of essentially 80% of the rocket launches in the entire world. Whoa. And nobody comes even close. China is number 2 at like 16%. And the remainder past that is the rest of the world combined. So as long as SpaceX is the only game in town, Elon Musk is the only game in town making money off of commercialized space travel. Bezos is trying. Maybe he'll be able to do it. But the elites can't let Musk, who they empowered, right, because he was the genius they needed. But they don't want him to be the guy who remains in power, because it turns out that he's not like a Rockefeller. He's not like so many of the other elites who have existed throughout history. Elon Musk doesn't build mansions. He doesn't build castles. Elon Musk doesn't spend lavishly on crazy, supposedly carbon net neutral yachts, such as Bob Iger. Right. Elon Musk lives in his apartments or lives in you know, the office space of his studios. He's a true believer in the value of consciousness in the universe and his desire that it be extended and empowered. And they don't know what to do with that because their entire existence is about power, not altruism.
Yeah, the scariest thing to corruption is an ideologue.
Yeah. All right, guys, real quick. We got a lot more to talk about with Disney and Iger, but before we get to that, just want to let everyone know that we have 300 concurrent viewers on the stream right now, which, you know, we're coming for you Friday Night Tights with your concurrent viewer count. We want to thank everyone for being here. If you like what you've seen so far, give us a thumbs up. And for those of you in chat, and for those of you who might be watching the replay, I have a question for you. Does Elon Musk calling out Bob Iger, if you are subscribed to Disney Plus, does that make you want to unsubscribe to show your support for what Elon's doing, or do you just not care? Let us know in the comments and in the chat, and we'll be reading some of those. But real quick, we have a members chat from Keely Chow for 5 months. Thank you so much, Keely. Some of the people at Disney watched The Rock and wanted to make every villain like General Hummel when the government was the real villain. It's very true.
Amen to that.
Then we have Dash Attack VTuber English for $4.99. Elon's speech made me a simp for him again. Advertisers get balls and make money. Guys, after I saw that video, I actually went and upgraded my Twitter subscription to Premium Plus. So,
yeah, so did we. So did the podcast.
Yep. So good stuff from Elon. Really inspired me to want to support the guy. Then we have Bob Dorsey, Salty Saturday Superstar, for $10. 9 minutes behind. This culture war will be real and truly turning when Elon lets Alex Jones back on X. When that happens, then the ride gets fun.
He needs to do that.
He does.
Definitely needs to do that.
He really does. And I think Trump needs to get back on Twitter. Enough of this true social nonsense.
Well, he's got that mirror account. There's somebody that's running an account that just posts all the stuff that he posts on Truth.
It's not the same though, you know.
Not the same, bro.
I know.
That raw, non-filtered Trump.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yep. All right, guys. Then we got Late Night with Cap, JT Gunn, for $2. Lady Ballers was pretty funny. Salty Nerd Podcast review incoming, possibly.
I thought so too.
Maybe,
possibly. And we got Culture Casino for $20. Thank you, Culture. Musk is going to be the power. He's not a Rothschild, Rockefeller, or Schwab. He's the only one building the future. And he actually made that point when he was on stage, where he's like, I've done more for the environment than any other company, any other person on the face of the earth. And he's sick and tired of people pretending to do good when what they're really doing is evil. And finally, Eric Winberg for $2. Keep going. This is amazing.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah,
that
you're getting something out of it.
That moment when he talked about how the White House and Biden didn't invite Tesla to the EV summit or whatever, that was like shocking. I was like, I'm sorry, that makes no sense. He made 200 plus cars. They made 15. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out. I'm just trying to think of. Does he have any allies? Like big business, big money type. I mean, he's an ally, sure. And,
right,
and Joe Rogan
has
a huge voice. He's very influential. But I'm just trying to like figure out if he has any like real friends in the business world that he can sit up on the stage with them and help change things. It's crazy. It's like it's Elon versus the world. It's nuts. So
there are people of like mind, but I don't know how well they play together. So Elon Musk has been compared to the former president, and Elon Musk probably gets along with some of those. There aren't that many, but some of the elites who are in that same kind of circle. I mean, Nelson Peltz, I would think, is of like mind with Elon Musk. But you're right. When it comes to the absolute top echelon, Elon Musk stands alone. And I think that's probably because,
it's worrisome to me because what, God forbid, what if something happens to Elon? What happens?
Well,
that's
let's hope not. But I mean, there is a funny wrinkle to this whole thing we were discussing the other day on the show, and that is, if Elon really wanted to send a big FU, he could start going out and causing some issues for Disney by buying up a bunch of stock.
I'm not going to be surprised if that happens.
Oh, he can hook up with Peltzman.
Exactly. And if he could get somebody like George Lucas or somebody like that to sell him out a bunch of stock or something like that, then this whole thing could change real quick.
Tom, how many seats do they need? 2, right?
Well, that's the thing. They just gave out 2 new They just gave out 2 seats, and it was like a big FU to Peltz. And I'm sure Pro can say this more eloquently than me. Yeah.
We're actually going to be talking about this right now, which is...
Well, there we go. We segued again.
Here it is.
The Peltz Disney takeover. Now, what I find funny about the whole Elon situation is that Elon was in the same kind of situation as Trump, where he was kind of like a Democrat lefty. He was beloved by all the people on the left. And then the minute that they don't start towing the line, they become public enemy number 1 and they're targeted for destruction. But the interesting thing here about like the whole like Disney kind of massive losses this year is that it's left them vulnerable to people like activist and investor Nelson Peltz. Now, for those of you who are worried about the term activist investor, what it really means is it's not like they're even more woke than Disney and they want to take it over and take it further left. What they're an activist for is the people like Brian from the podcast who own Disney stock, because they want the company to actually be making money and be more profitable. And so they're an activist for the shareholders.
Right. A passive investor is the kind who invests and sits back and says, okay, well, I'll check back in 6 months. That's the difference.
And there's been this big, and we've talked about this on the live stream before, there's this big thing going on right now where Nelson Peltz is trying to take over Disney in a hostile takeover situation. And he actually had Ike Perlmutter, who was the former head of Marvel, kind of give him power of attorney over his stocks. And so, like, as Nelson Peltz gets more and more, shares of the company, he's getting closer and closer to actually, having more seats on the board and be able to overrule the other members of the board and Bob Iger and stuff like that. He could actually replace Bob Iger if he wanted to. But an interesting twist in this is Bob Iger basically said, like, I'm definitely stepping down in 2026. There's a shelf life to, my run here, and we're going to be looking for, a replacement. We're going to do it right this time instead of, the whole Bob Chapek thing. And I'm really glad that we have WDW Pro on the show today, because nobody knows more about this Disney stuff than he does. And so, Dubs, I wanted to ask you, what is Nelson Peltz's strategy here, and do you think it could ultimately work?
Well, everything has changed after the past few days, and partly that's because we don't know quite yet what Elon Musk's strategy is going to be to combat back against these companies that some might say, although I'm not definitively saying, have colluded against X. And so the wrinkle here is that, yes, Nelson Peltz already had plenty of power to go at this second proxy war. Disney seems to have fended that off with the dividend, which is much higher than most anticipated, but likely is using funds from depreciated values and assets that they had over the past year, which you would not think they could replicate. Not to go too far into the weeds, but basically, you don't want to see Disney closing more Galactic Star Cruiser hotel style establishments in order to pay a dividend. That's a bizarre strategy, and so it's a 1 year kind of thing. If they can continue that, well, they need to grow majorly, and that doesn't look like it's in the cards. So Peltz has the corporation and the institutions around Disney have done everything they can to block Peltz for the short term. For the long term, Peltz holds the cards so long as Disney does not rebound, and Disney so far has not taken steps to be able to rebound. Now, where all of this gets extremely interesting is that Disney has now made this step where they have targeted X/Twitter. Elon Musk, it may have been this morning, it may have been yesterday, posted the results of a study in which it indicated that users of TikTok were orders of magnitude, many, many, many times over more likely to be provided with material that would be offensive, and offensive in the exact same way that was falsely used to drive these companies off of Twitter/X. Now, the question is, for someone such as Elon, whose net worth is larger than the entire worth of the Walt Disney Company, and that's just as Elon the individual, it's nothing for Elon Musk to throw $5 billion to someone like Nelson Peltz and his Trian Group and say, I want control of the company, get control of the company, and I want them to advertise on my platform at double, what they've done in the past. And I don't see any reason that couldn't happen. It's just, how does Elon want to go about this? Is it better in his interest for Twitter to be taken down by these companies and then the blame go on those companies, and then he starts a brand new fresh X from the ashes of that? Or is it better for him to now pivot to where he is actively engaged in these companies to prevent them from doing what they've done in the past to him, and sort of cracking the shell of the oligarchical cronyism of the world? I don't know what his path forward is. What I can say, though, is that when you're looking at a company like Disney, many people are going to wonder, why is the stock acting the way it is? And I'm not here to give anyone financial advice. What I am here to say is that for those of you who have been wondering, what in the world is going on? Why does this stock not move in this direction or whatever direction you might perceive it should? And the answer seems to me to have been that in the past year, we've seen two different groups that are aligned with the opposite ends of the political spectrum being used to prepare for a proxy war. And so you've got the Value Act on one end, and you've got the Trian Group on the other. And the Walt Disney Company, for whatever reason, fate has decided, or people have decided, that the elites are going to use this as their battleground for the culture war. Disney is ground zero, and all the funds are going to be funneled into those two groups to decide which way we go with children's entertainment for the future. It's going to be fascinating to watch. I would suggest that whatever happens over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months is just the beginning, because this is where it's at in terms of taking over how we disseminate culture to the next generation and to the world abroad.
I want to throw this to Odin. Odin, do you think, because Bob Iger has been very clear on the earnings calls that he doesn't look at the political nature of Disney as a problem, right? Like it's something where, oh, we're upholding our values, we're inclusive for everyone. And yet it's proven time and time again that they're actually exclusive. They're excluding the vast majority of people who used to love Disney. And it's now becoming clear in their bottom line that this philosophy that he instituted during his reign is actually hurting the company. Now, coming off a year where basically it's been financially disastrous, at least for the entertainment division at Disney, is there a way that he can actually right the ship and save face in the prospect of Nelson Peltz coming in and basically telling him to pound rocks and destroying his legacy?
I mean, if he was capable of if I thought he was capable of change, then I would say yes. But because I don't think he is, especially at that level, no, I don't really think there is a whole lot that he can do to right the ship. Because, you know, as you were kind of, you know, mentioning there, when you start to have your content be for everybody, it eventually becomes for nobody. Right? When you try to, you know, the other expression that I like is sometimes you can be so open-minded your brain falls out, right? And so you have to, you know, you have to have limits, you have to have some strictures there. And I think ultimately what the really best test of this will be, because we obviously can point to things like the collapse of Star Wars, the collapse of Marvel, the collapse of their you know, kids animated divisions. But I'm going to be very interested, and I'm interested to see if anyone else thinks that there's a possibility here. But what do we think is going to happen when the next Frozen movie comes out? I'm not convinced that it's going to be a massive hit. I know that Frozen's huge. I know that's a massive IP, and so that might be enough for it to be able to look big on paper. But with the other two films, I think both of them made $1 billion. I think this film's going to far below where the other two movies got. And I think
Odin,
that might be that wake-up call of, okay, they've clearly not only just lost general parents and general faith in new material, but even for established stuff too, like when it comes to their animated features. I don't know.
Odin, here's the question for you. Inside Out 2 comes out this next summer. If that collapses at the box office, does the Jenga Tower fall down?
I mean, because Inside Out was you know, a pretty, it wasn't the biggest film that they ever had, but it did well. And I personally even liked that first one. But I think that might be the sign that is, because again, the reason why it's Frozen is because they've had two films in a row, two films that have made $1 billion, massive IP, all these things like around the world that they've built just from the movies. So if that film can't even by its name, right, then it's almost like that is like, what else do they have? Like, there's nothing else. Like, to me, that's like the one thing in their mind. They're thinking, oh, well, just wait till Frozen comes out. Then it'll show that we're back, right? And if even that doesn't happen, then I don't know. I think that might be the sign.
All right. I want to throw this to Tom. So, Tom, there's been this kind of culture at Disney where it's the message over profits, right? Like, they don't care about how much money they make because they could always count on the parks to, you know, kind of fill in any losses or what have you. And now it's getting to the point where it's like, hey, we need to start focusing on profits. And yet they don't seem to really be too concerned about shifting the narrative and the amount of politics that goes into it. Like, Disney's no longer a trusted brand for parents. Parents can't just sit their kids in front of like a Disney movie and expect them to just be family friendly. So the question here becomes, like, what do you see down the road in terms of like Disney changing? Are they going to double down on all this DEI stuff in order to continue getting those loans, or are they actually going to be like, hey, it's better to not worry about the DEI stuff and focus on our core customer base and try to get the company healthy again?
I mean, clearly they're one of the last companies in Hollywood right now that are just grasping desperately onto the whole woke train, right? But Bob has shifted a bit since even earlier in the year, as far as like, you know, earlier in the year, he's like, oh, the message is important. We're not going to stray away from the message. The message is, you know, what it's all about, kind of thing, blah, 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 blah. But now we're hearing him finally say, well, you know, the story's also important, you know? So I think you guys are right. I think Odin and Pro are kind of right on. Let's assess how Inside Out 2 goes. Because I think, isn't that whole thing that they're adding a new emotion and it's anxiety?
It's a very merchandisable character. Everyone wants their child hugging the plushie.
And not only that, isn't there something about this character having something to do with being trans or something or other? I have no idea.
I think that's a rumor right now, but it wouldn't surprise any of us, you know?
Yeah. And so, or like maybe it'll play into the story, like the character themselves is questioning their sexuality, and that's why they're having anxiety. I can see that also being a part. And that's just it, right? We could sit here and come up with 6 scenarios right now that would be inappropriate for children that Disney probably has thought of for this movie. And the same thing goes for Frozen, because that's the other thing about Frozen 3. Isn't that the big rumor that they're going to make what's-her-face a lesbian or whatever, or they already have?
Well, she's already indigenous, despite the fact she looks like she's albino, so.
Yeah. And it isn't Frozen based on a Norwegian fairy tale anyway? Like, yeah, but anyhow, let's get beyond that. But as far as like, do I see them making any changes? I've been predicting for a while, we'll see something called the final re. Right. And what the final re is where every other company and everybody else, including, you know, the worst of the worst, have finally gone, yeah, we've gone too far. We have to kind of turn things back a little bit, get back to get in the middle of the road again. Remembering
when Grace Randolph starts agreeing with Gary of Nerdrotic, I think we're at the precipice of the re.
I don't know if she agreed with him so much as she just had to acknowledge it. Yeah, I think that was the thing that was kind of more impressive. But no, and you even have bigger outlets, and I think even the MCU term shows up in that MCU book that was just put out here not too long ago. But that being said, I think they're going to have to. They're just going to take. It's just they're going to be the last ones to figure it out. What the final re is going to be the things we were just talking about, going back to what Matt, you and Kadish had said before. Is the only way to fix this company is to do exactly what Elon Musk did, and that is fire everybody, including Bob Iger, and then start assessing, okay, who is it we need, and then rehire those people back that you need, and then leave the rest out, because Disney is so infected, and this is the thing we've all heard so many times over, and when Gina was ousted, you know, the whole Pixar story I was hearing before, that's the other thing, is you'll get people... And I'm sure Pro gets the same thing, and some of you guys probably do too, where people who work inside of Disney and Lucasfilm and Marvel come at you and go, I wish I could say something, but I can't. I'm scared to lose my job. You know, these activists are freaking running the company, and it's insane. And it's what we keep hearing more and more and more. The only way they're going to fix it is to get them out of there, basically, and change the storytelling back to what Disney was. Yeah. I just got one more thought on it, and I'll end it here, because we're sitting in the middle of the 100th anniversary of Disney. Yeah. Why didn't we have a classic Disney film released in theaters every single month, remastered from head to toe? You could have had Snow White in January, Cinderella in March, Bambi in February, you know, just down the line, Pinocchio, all the classics, because they did remaster them for 4K, a couple of them, but they just quietly put them on video. They didn't release them in theaters or anything. Sorry, that was my last point, is they need to get back to basics. They need to get back to what Disney was all about.
Yep. I got this image in my head of Elon Musk going into Disney headquarters and coming back out with a sink.
What is it that you actually do here?
Yeah.
All right. I want to.
I'm a painful person.
I want to round out this talk with Brian. So Brian, one of the funny things about this Nelson Peltz thing is that the Disney board actually changed the rules for nominating directors in the wake of Nelson Peltz, his hostile takeover attempts. And by the way, guys, all the articles that we talked about in the live stream are linked in the description of this video. So if you want to actually read the source material, feel free to check them out.
That's why you're Grand Pumbaa.
I just find it funny that that the board is so scared of actually wanting to turn a profit that they're changing their own rules to keep this guy at bay.
It's crazy,
right?
Well, and I'm surprised that Pro thinks that 30 cents per share is actually a decent diviend, because I think Mikey did the math, and it's like, what is it? It's like you have to have quite a few thousand shares to even make a buck, or whatever it is. I can't remember, or however much it was. I can't remember what you said.
I would say this: Disney right now is hemorrhaging money to the point that it seemed almost like they should not. I mean, from a financial perspective, I would have advised them, although I'm not worthy of doing so, but I would have said, maybe we hold off on this dividend. Like
Yeah,
we're not in the
maybe.
position to pay it.
But Pro, I want to hear Brian's thoughts on this before we wrap things up. So go ahead, Brian. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I think that their message, the message right now, is more important than turning a profit. They think that they're chasing the next generation, the new audience, right? They think that they can weather the storm, and gain the next generation that is slowly being groomed with, and I'm not saying groomed in like sexual term, but like they're being groomed to accept the constant barrage of propaganda that Vader just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So they're constantly being groomed, barraged with propaganda with this new message, and they think they can weather the storm until the next generation has enough dough to start supporting the company. I don't believe that's the case, considering that like I think the average age of people living at home now is still like 35 years old. I don't think they're going to get to the next generation like they think they are. The Zoomers are not going to save Disney. I don't think they have. There's not enough time. They're going to run out of money. They're going to run out of time before they can get to that generation.
And also, Brian, as you mentioned before, this couldn't have come at a worse time for Disney, because with the election year coming up, they need that propaganda machine to keep running.
They really
if they
do.
want to retain control of the government. And so like they're going to try to hold out for one more year and just suffer these losses, I think.
Yeah.
But real quick, guys, I want to read a super chat from John Maynor for $10. If I didn't already cancel my Disney Plus account because of Filoni's complete failure in Ahsoka, I would have canceled it Wednesday or Thursday. I will be upping my X account to support Elon Musk. And I asked that question a little bit earlier, so I got some chats I want to share with you guys. Wendy Hunter says, I would unsubscribe from Disney, but I get it for free from my friend. And then Red Pilled Rant says, unsubscribe? I never subscribed. Fluffy Panda says, I would love to cancel my Disney Plus, but it's included in my Hulu subscription. Lasai.
Yeah, Hulu kind of sucks too.
Yeah, with Hulu, it's only $2 for Disney Plus. $2.
Yeah. And then Brendan P. I've been boycotting everything Disney since Endgame Force Awakens. Fuck Bob. Kerr Canos says, I unsubscribed yesterday, but I already had planned to do it. It was just a good event to get rid of it. Doomed Huh says, I'd already canceled. Kerr Canos says again, well, I'm the friend who shared the Disney Plus access. And of course, Danny's mom Penny says, I don't pay for any of my streaming channels. That's what my kids are for. Andrew
Wait a second. Doesn't Danny get those things from us? One of us? Right?
No. Also, people are always giving Penny memberships anyways.
I know. She just gets everything for free.
She shows up and everyone's like, Penny's here. Get her a membership quick.
Exactly.
I see, there's no such thing as white privilege, but there's definitely something as woman privilege, that's for sure.
Penny privilege. Andrew Richardson says, never had Disney and do not need it now. And finally, 52 movies a year. If I could unsubscribe twice from Disney Plus, I probably would. Read that into it. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for being here today. We really appreciate you coming out for it. Again, if you guys are watching this on replay, you can answer that question in the descriptions. We are watching all that stuff. So I want to go around the panel and get final thoughts. Odin, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, well, first you can find me over at OMB Reviews on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, Twitter /X, all the different platforms like that. And as far as final thoughts are concerned, I am very excited for the box office right now. It's just a very exciting time. I mentioned this in the private chat that right now Wish's numbers are nearing Strange World level. It's doing better than where Strange World was, but it's closer to Strange World than it is to Elemental, which came out earlier this past year. So it's really, really bad. But anyway, if you want further information on the box office breakdowns and previews, check out my channel. Thanks for having me.
All right, Tom from Midnight's Edge. Any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, you can find me at Midnight's Edge After Dark. As far as final thoughts, I don't know. That's a macabre way of thinking, I think. No, I don't know if I'm going to have, I tend to do a show every other Saturday called 4K for You. I haven't heard back from my crew yet to find out if we're going to have one yet. So otherwise, you'll probably see me pop up later on Flashcast. But thanks for having me. I love hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, and we are very happy to have you here. And speaking of people we're happy to have here, Dubs, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Well, I'm looking forward to diving into these numbers that Odin has been sharing backstage. Wish numbers coming out now, and we don't yet have, I don't think, now Odin may have the numbers quicker than I do, but I don't see the numbers quite yet for Hunger Games. What I am hoping to see, but I'm not sure that I will see, is I would love for Godzilla to manage to climb its way into second place. It's a film that absolutely deserves it. I can't wait for you guys to see it so then we can actually talk about it in a higher resolution, and then maybe we can all get together for a video in the future and talk about where a sequel could go. Folks, if you want to find me, of course, I'm on the WDW Pro channel, as well as with Valiant Renegade on his Renegade Online show Sundays in the evenings, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. As for me and my content release schedule, it's 10:30 a.m. and 3:30 p.m., 7:30 p.m. as well, Eastern Time all. And we are about to do a 50K subscriber celebration Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, a 50K subscriber celebration. And we're going to make some big announcements, changes to the channel, as well as a brand new time slot for the Pro Show, which we will be announcing, and which the second week of December, the Pro Show will be moving to an all-new time. Exciting stuff.
Yes, congratulations on hitting those 50K subs. Brian, from the podcast, any final thoughts, and what do you guys got going on your massive live streaming schedule?
Yeah, we're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. So it's a big step for us. So come check us out. And my final thoughts is, I think a lot of us, a lot of people gloss over the whole grooming aspect that Vader was talking about earlier. How the propaganda is just like nonstop. Everywhere you go to Target, Walmart, wherever you go, there's trans flags and LGBT.
It's like walking through Berlin in 1938.
It's nonstop. You can't get away from it. Give your kid a phone, put every restriction on there, and still, Google will determine that your kid's under 10 restrictions still allow for, tranny story hour or whatever it's called. The thing is, the point of this is to normalize it to a level where the next generation sees perversion and control as completely normal. And I really think that conversation, it's a hard conversation to have because it makes people look like, you look like a bigot. Well, I'm not a bigot. I don't care. You do whatever you want. But why is it a constant level of propaganda, just nonstop? I can't go to a single website without being completely bombarded with the propaganda.
Rainbows everywhere.
Everywhere, man. Nonstop. Hey, veterans get a day. But you know what?
Yeah.
And if you want to get really conspiratorial about this is all being orchestrated by China to help rot the West from within. So
Did you hear they actually found some shit about that this last week out of the Facebook deal?
That's
okay.
wild.
I figured that's why you brought it up. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, it's not just that. It's very obvious that Chinese money is behind all these initiatives, and also George Soros. So, you just need to take that into account. Anyway, real quick before I get to Matt Vader 74, we got a super chat from Echo Base Network for $20. Hail, guys! F Disney and Super F Disney Star Wars. Great stream, guys. Keep up the good work. Thank you for.
I'm willing to bet that is not Coach.
Probably not.
Not with the F's being thrown around there.
We really need to get them here on a Saturday morning. We really do. That would be a great show.
No, but if you guys got nothing to do this weekend, and if you make a double feature out of The Shift and Godzilla, I can't express that enough. I didn't really give a final thought. That's what I should say, because I am such a big Godzilla fan. I said it is probably the best Godzilla movie ever made.
Oh yes.
Nice.
And I'll tell you what, I'm such a glutton for Godzilla that I've got this many copies of the '98 film.
Oh God!
Yes.
You and Alex.
I think it's the best wide release of the year.
Oh, right. It's up there with Tetris.
Yes. Matt Vader 74.
Oh,
we got a video coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the live stream coming up on Tuesday.
Tomorrow.
So, yeah.
Planet of the Apes tomorrow. Yeah.
Planet of the Apes. Yep.
Yeah. I like how he tries to feed me the answers as we go along here. Planet of the Apes tomorrow is being released. That's our little group discussion that we do every week on the SMP. That's going to be
original
good.
Planet of the Apes.
I was going to ask which one. Yeah.
1969 Planet of the Apes. that was a fun discussion. It's going to be a fun video. I can't wait to see what you guys did with it in the editing booth. I'm sure it's always fun what you guys do.
That's literally what Alex was doing behind me this.
Yeah.
Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty YouTuber.
Tuesday we have another live stream, Saltcast IRL, where we're going to be talking about Godzilla -1 and probably some other topics, but we're going to watch the movie as a group, and it's going to be super fun. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't gotten to go to the movies with these guys in a while, so it's going to be good times.
The big discussion on Tuesday's live stream is going to be about this TV show that Netflix spent $50 million on and didn't get a single episode.
Okay.
It's going to be an interesting discussion topic. But real quick, I want to give a big shout out to Lofty Pixels for that opening intro with Elon on.
I wasn't done yet. Whatever.
Oh, go ahead and finish up.
Fucking asshole! I swear to God.
Damn,
just shut the fuck up, Vader. I'm going to talk now. Okay.
When you're going to learn this is not the Salty Nerd podcast, it's the Kadish podcast.
Kadish show. Yeah. So Saltcast IRL on Tuesday. Please come join us in there. On a more personal and selfish note, I want to ask everybody to take a second and go to my personal YouTube channel. Just find Matt Vader 74 on YouTube. Matt didn't know I was going to say this, but I needed something to do late night when I get home from work. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm going to be doing a 2-hour game stream. It's just kind of my wind down time. I come home, I get home at 10:30. And I needed something to do because I just don't like to go to sleep as soon as I get home. So I'm going to be playing some World of Warcraft and doing some other things there. And I hope everybody can join me. I know it's super late. It's a very niche audience, but if you're up at night and you like video games, come give me a follow as I try to get that channel to 500 people. And I'm going to have some fun over there. So
Vader, I'm up at night. I should boot up the old account and we can party up.
Yeah. They have this new Warcraft Classic stuff that's actually really fun. It's scratching that itch, my old vanilla itch for 2005 World of Warcraft, and it's super fun. So now, Matt, please feel free. Go ahead.
All right. So big shout out to Lofty Pixels. His YouTube account is linked in the description if you guys want to check out more of his stuff. Also, join us over on saltynerd.discord.com. That's an invite that'll take you right to our Discord server. Makes it really easy for you to join. Engage us in some conversations over there. We're going to be talking about Godzilla and all types of stuff on the Discord server. And a big shout out to everyone who gave us super chats today. I want to call out Mexican Iron Man, Fluffy Panda, Lover of Green, Dennis Wright, Ryan, Rec Films Montana, David Nelson, Dash Attack, Bob Dorsey, JT Gunn, Culture Casino, Eric Winberg, John Maynor, and Echo Base Network. You guys are wonderful. Thank you so much for supporting the show. We really appreciate all the love and support you guys give us week to week. And we had a lot to talk about today, guys, and we talked about it. And until next Saturday, tune in to Same Salty Time, Same Salty Channel. And don't forget, on Tuesdays, we're going to be starting an hour early this week for various reasons. But in the new year, we might be jiggering our live stream schedule. Saturdays will probably stay the same, but we're still trying to figure out things.
Well, that's
on
a
Tuesdays.
weird word.
Jiggering? Yeah.
Well, careful.
He said it again.
Careful, man.
I don't know if you're the right color to be getting jiggy with it, sir.
We've already demonetized, so it's okay. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for being here. And as always, stay salty, my friends.